Good evening. I'm Sister Janet Eisner, a sister of Notre Dame de Namur, president of Emmanuel College in Boston, and a member of St. John's Seminary Board of Trustees. What a privilege to join you in celebrating the many accomplishments of the past 20 years since the seminary launched the Master's Programs for Laity. A few years ago, I had the pleasure of speaking with students in the MAM program. They said the experience deepened their understanding of church teaching on key issues and enabled them to contribute their voices more confidently on topics of faith. They were eager, in the words of the U.S. bishops, to embrace their roles as co-workers in the vineyard of the Lord. Having spent most of my life working in higher education, I'd like to share a few thoughts on young people today. We read that the young generation are unchurched, pre-catechetical, on nuns, N-O-N-E-S. And there's truth there. I think of the student who, after listening to campus ministers describe retreats, asked if the moment of silence they had was a retreat. No. Or the freshman who asked Sister Susan in the advising office, "How many grandchildren do you have?" Yet students in this generation do seek and yearn for a strong sense of purpose and meaning. For example, we see a number of students sitting quietly in the chapel. We hear from a student who was present during the Parkland shooting. Or we read in our book of intentions the words of a student asking prayers for a grandfather with COVID, or another seeking direction or clarity, or another expressing concern for a friend with mental illness. At the Sunday liturgy, a young man comes dressed in a suit and tie, not the usual attire, and after Mass tells the priest this is the first time he has been to Mass since he was 10 years old. The celebrant responds, "But you are here tonight, and welcome back." He had come with a group of students from his residence hall floor. Students also find a strong sense of purpose and meaning in serving others and in being part of a community. By reflecting on these experiences and engaging in coursework, students often experience an aha moment when they see that their experiences serving others are really living out fundamental church teachings about human dignity and social justice. What is more, this is a generation that will stand up for social justice and equity and stand against systemic racism and sexism. It is vital that we reach young people where they are and stick with them as they discover the truth about God, about themselves, and about their journey. In this time between Easter and Pentecost, it is always so moving to hear gospel accounts of the resurrection and readings from the Acts of the Apostles regarding the early church, the very first co-workers. Imagine how disheartened those first disciples must have been after what had happened to their teacher and leader. And so the apostles go back to Galilee, to the place where they were first called. Was this, I wonder, a time of discernment for the apostles? What had happened over the last 3 years in their lives? Jesus meets them early morning by the seashore and says, "Come have breakfast." And they recognize him. And he asks Peter, "Do you love me?" A moment of healing. This personal encounter with Christ is at the core of the bishop's call to the co-workers. Quote, "A personal experience in and through the church of the love of the Father in Christ and through his Spirit is foundational for true discipleship." End quote. There is much work to be done, and our days can be hectic. Yet we also know how important it is to continue our relationship with God. It is essential that we take time to reflect, be quiet, notice, and to listen, particularly to how God may be speaking to us through the events of our lives and through others. As we navigate all the demands and difficulties that come with our vocation, let us keep coming back to that place where we first heard the call. Keep discerning your deepest desires and speak with God about what is in your heart. St. Peter's successor today, Pope Francis, notes that Pentecost means astonishment. If the church is alive, she must always surprise and astound. A church that is unable to astound is weak, sick, dying, and needs admission to the intensive care unit as soon as possible, end of quote. The fire of the Spirit is alive in our church today, and its power to astound remains strong through you, the co-workers in the vineyard. I'm glad to have had the opportunity to speak with you during this 20th anniversary retreat. May God bless all of you and your ministries and sustain the work of St. John's Seminary for years to come. Thank you so much.